Hi, Bill Henshaw here again, your walking constitution from the San Francisco Peninsula. And today we have an interesting study here, especially for those of us who take the Constitution seriously and try to get our issues into a judicial court and get them decided. And that is the recent episode with the confirmation hearings, where you had what I call a Ketanji clone in there. Name is, hold on a sec here, Charnel this Joe can win or something like that. And when asked directly, are you familiar with Article 5 of the Constitution for the United States? She replied she didn't have any familiarity with it, hadn't come across it. And the senator went on and asked, well, what about Article 2, which are executive powers? That's the president. And that's where we have a lot of serious trouble in today's elected despotism, which she wouldn't know the meaning of that either. Because they think they can do a lot of things, with the war powers of the president, pursuant to Article 2, but almost none of it's true. So if this is the class of people we're getting for judges, and by the way, you have to be a member of the State Bar Association or the ABA to even be considered for an appointment. That should be a real big tip-off here as to how fixed this system is, especially when Bouvier's Law Dictionary 1857 definition of citizen, one who has the power to vote for representatives and all agents of government, and who is competent to accept all offices in the gift of the people. And it goes on to identify us for what we are: free white male and 21. No apologies. Presumed competent. Nowadays, it's exactly the opposite. And the first question we should be asking when we hit the courthouse doors, they consider us, by the way, to be incompetent from day one, is how did this happen? And for those of you that want more information, send me an email, uwinningcourt@gmail.com. Among other things, I'll send you a copy of Georgia Probate Code, Section 29-4-21, that spells it out, what they think they can do. But this statute enacted, like they all are these days, by a legislature in which we are not only not represented, we're specifically excluded from all departments of government. Where the hell is the consent of the government here? It's nowhere in sight. Now we get judges like this, and for what they teach in law schools these days, that's as much of a problem as anything. None of it's there anymore. It's been a good 70 or 80 years, probably, since any serious learning could be done in law school. Back in the day when Winchester and O'Connor were together in law school at Stanford, not one of my favorite places, but at the time a pretty decent law school. Now no one knows and no one needs to. And you got Irwin Chemerinsky, the idiot over here, and you see Berserkly, that's head of the law school, term before last, just relegated the one course they have on the Constitution to an elective. Why bother to waste time and money on that? You're not going to need it. There's no Constitution. There's no states. There's no nothing. So it's a total waste of time. And that's what they think. And that's why they don't know this stuff. And yet they're judges. And you get into their quote unquote courtrooms, aka administrative tribunals, particularly in front of the jury, which I've never seen and I'm never going to see one. Oh, by the way. And the jury is going to think that the attorneys and the judge know the law, but we don't. Can you say black is white here? And that's the beauty of it, because the way I do things to set up unopposed records in the trial court so we can come at them later if we have to. In a court they won't recognize and won't have any standing, but we would be in front of the jury. And it will take about 30 seconds for the jury to realize who the hell knows the law and who doesn't. If I cross-examine these bastards on the witness stand unfiltered by one of their attorneys. I mean, that's how absolutely ridiculous all this has gotten today. So, we have to deal with it. But you get clones like this on there, and Ketanji, you might as well retire right now, especially if the Republicans win the next quote-unquote election. You're going to have nothing to do. What meaningful opinion are you going to write in what's currently at least a 63 conservative majority. What are you going to do? You're going to get very bored here, bored to death, waste of time. A lot like your earlier predecessor, thoroughly no good Marshall. And I mentioned both, and it just so happens that they're both black, but there's a lot of justices that have been on the court, white, that don't have much of a clue these days either, because it's simply not taught anymore. You don't learn anything in the mandatory public education system. I sure as hell didn't 50 years ago, and I was right outside of Washington, D.C., for crying out loud, where you might have thought we would have had a much better education. In many respects, we did, if only for the reason it was covered by the Montgomery County School Board, not by the state of Maryland and Annapolis. But in this area, zip, nada. They don't want you to know. And that's just, and I was so ignorant. And if I occasionally call you people ignorant out there, take heart, because I'm at the top of the class here. And I volunteered into the Marine Corps at the height of the Tet Offensive in the Vietnam War. How's that for stupid? But I didn't have a clue. And this is a time when there was a lot of serious goings on against the Vietnam War. I should have paid more attention, and would have had I been educated in school. It didn't work out that way, but better late than never. And I'm here to help you. To find out why, send me an email, youwinnincourt@gmail.com, and I'll tell you about my modestly priced constitutional defense document packets. You'll have some learning to do too, but it won't take you almost 20 years like it did me. That's part of my job, is to get you up to speed. So with my materials, you get complimentary phone consultations, complimentary TLC with emails to help get you up to speed, complimentary updates on all documents, and even a complimentary Zoom appearance at a contested hearing. So it's a lot put together there for a very minimum amount of money, but I do that because I realize how important it is to get the word out as quickly as I can to as many as I can. And, it's risk versus gain for me. A lot of time, a lot of effort, but if we set the unopposed record in one of their corrupt trial courts, administrative tribunal, now we probably won't even have to file any documents to get them to pay up. As you get me in front of these Bitchute at the settlement table, it's going to take about 10 minutes before they realize who they're up against and how they can't handle it. If we get in there in front of a jury, all hell is going to break loose. And I'm never going to see one, unfortunately. I would love to. But that said, this is the quality of judicial nominees we have, especially from Biden, who's already in the top, the bottom 5 worst presidents, and that takes some doing to get there. Trust me, it does. The top 5 is a different matter, but the bottom 5, wow, and he's already in it. So I can't see, he was too old to run 2 years ago, let alone get elected, quote unquote, which didn't happen. Story for another day. So I don't know who they're going to run in 2 years. Sacramento's Kamala Harris, Gavin Newsom. I think the Republicans have a real good chance, and that's a key, because that means Alito and Thomas can retire to get younger conservatives in there, and the beat goes on. It's exciting for all of us. And when you start to learn about things, and then you can teach your children, and they can teach your grandchildren, your posterity. This is what makes a difference. Because you go in there and you know what the hell you're doing, like I did in my South Carolina case 7 years ago. I can't believe I'm saying that. And I shot him up in 60 seconds in the arraignment here. 60 seconds. And I'm there, manacle hand and foot in a red jail suit. They're the ones in trouble with the law, and everybody knew it. That's the power we have. And I want to teach you how to do it too. Send me an email, youwinnincourt@gmail.com. I'll get the information out of my materials. You're going to love all of it. And I certainly do. Here at the age of 74 now, life is ahead of me. That's astounding. It really is. And I'm thankful for my great health every day too. That doesn't hurt anything either. But when you know the truth, and that's what they never want you to know, especially if you're on a jury. Wow, it's just amazing. So that said, remember to like my videos, subscribe, tell your friends, get the word out. The sooner we start doing away with this divide and conquer BS they've been doing for at least 150 years, the sooner we get the bastards off our backs. Thank you.